Alright, we are going to get started on a mixed media project. We're going to be using watercolor and Sharpie marker. And to be honest, I actually found this example here on Pinterest, and so I thought, hey, we'll do something with some color theory on that. So ours will be broken down into sections of cool colors, warm colors, and then primary colors. Alright, so to get started, we have our 12 by 18 piece of watercolor paper, and what we need to do is to tape it down. We're going to use this blue painter's tape, and so you're going to take your painter's tape and tear off one long continuous strip of tape, and then here, I'll slide this down so you can see what's going on. And then about a 1/4 inch down on the paper, we're just going to lightly tack that down, okay? Don't press and crease it really hard, or you're going to end up shredding the edges of your watercolor paper when you go to take the tape off. Alright, so to get started, we're going to have 9 circles that we're eventually going to paint. They're going to kind of look like, I don't know, marbles or something. They kind of looked a little abstract. But get yourself a collection of lids or circular objects that you can trace around. And again, kind of spread them out on your paper and trace around them. Don't let any of your circles touch each other, so make sure there's a space between them, and also don't let any run off the edge of your paper, okay? So keep your 9 circles on your paper and then just kind of scatter them about. Alright, now what I did is, you also find online, you'll find this under the assignment Mixed Media Marbles. And we're going to use watercolor and Sharpie marker. Down here at the bottom, I have the watercolor combinations. So we're going to first do warm colors, and then there's cool colors, and then there's primary colors. Okay, so you have 9 circles. You're going to color or paint 3 circles using the warm, 3 using the cool, and 3 using the primary colors. Alright, so to get started, get my watercolor here going. I also put a letter on each one of my circles. I'm going to erase those here before I get started. This was just a little reminder for me to kind of space out and plan out where I wanted all my warm colored ones. So here's my warm color example. I have another one here and another one here. I'm going to go ahead and do a primary color one. So we'll do this one right here in the middle. Alright, so what I did is that I went ahead and I put water in the colors that I was going to use. I just used clear water so that excuse me, that it's actually softened up and ready to go, because I don't want to just use the dry watercolor right out of the palette. I want it to be a little bit soft, okay? Alright, I've got just about a 1/2 inch of water in my water cup, and you could get yourself a couple of water cups so that you don't have to constantly be changing your water. Alright, so I'm going to do the primary colors. Now, you have the choice. Bring this up a little closer so that you can see. We have option 1, which is yellow, turquoise, and magenta. Now, the turquoise and magenta do not come in your watercolor palette, okay? They're actually liquid watercolors that I can provide for you off to the side of your palette, okay? Or you can use the 3 primary colors that are right in your palette, so that'd be the yellow, blue, and red, okay? But if you choose option 1, all 3 of your circles must be done with those same 3 colors, okay? Alright, so we're going to use a wet to wet technique. And so what I need to do is, with my clean water, I'm going to take my bigger watercolor brush and I'm actually going to paint water onto the surface, and then I'm going to be dipping into the colors and dotting them onto the wet surface. Okay, so I'm just going to carefully take my time and paint around the outside of my circle. I have to grab some more water here. Okay, so, all right, then I'm gonna just kind of quickly swish some water right there in that center. Now my paper's already starting to warp from that water, and that is okay. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start with the yellow first because that's my lightest color, and I don't want to contaminate my yellow inside the palette. And so I'm going to grab some of this yellow, and I'm actually just going to kind of drop it on there. And now with the primary colors here when we get going, when you drop your other colors, and I'm not brushing this on here, you guys, I'm literally just kind of dotting it in place. And if I want it to be a little more intense yellow, I'm just going to keep dropping a little bit more in that spot. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next one, which is my magenta color here. This is really hot pink. That's going to give me this look right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab some of that. I want some areas of this circle to be just that beautiful hot pink magenta color. And you can kind of see when I dip there on top of that yellow that is kind of mixing, and it's kind of making that orange color. Okay, and I'm actually going to reload my paintbrush here. I think I'd kind of like to have a nice little hot pink there along the sides. And there we go. Alright, so then at this point, I'm going to go ahead and use the turquoise. That's this right out here on the edge of my palette. And again, I'm kind of cleaning my paintbrush here off to the side. You can't see what I'm doing, but I just rinsed my paintbrush out. Now I'm going to grab that turquoise. And that's a really rich, beautiful turquoise color. And then I'm just kind of paint that in there. Where it's mixing up with my yellow, it's changing and kind of turning green. Where it mixes together with that hot pink, it should be turning purple. So there's a pretty purple there. I can dot some more on top of there. Okay, so I want to be careful that I don't overwork this, because if I get too much going on and like my purple starts mixing together with that yellow, it could start turning kind of brownish color on me, so I got to be careful about that. Alright, so now while my paper is still wet, I'm going to take a little bit of table salt, and I'm going to just sprinkle some granules of salt on there, and I'm just going to kind of spread it out. I don't want too much. Okay. What that table salt is going to do when it dries is that if you look back up here to this one that's already dry, it kind of creates these little flashes of white on it. So you can kind of see that it collects that paint along the ice or around the salt, and then all of a sudden when it dries, it'll push away the color. So it's going to give us kind of this effect. And my colors, see my paper's starting to warp, so my colors are kind of merging there together, and hopefully that dries really cool. Alright, so then I would proceed on with this wet to wet technique, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep painting these colors together on my other three primary circles. It'd be these two here. And then I would go ahead and change my water, because you can see it's already getting pretty dirty. And actually I would change this before I start with my next circle, because I don't want to paint dirty water down onto the next circle. So I would get clean water and start again painting my water down on my circle, drop in my yellow, and then my magenta and turquoise. That would be the option one for the primary colors. And then I would switch and I would go ahead and do my cool colors. So just follow the outline on the handout, and we need to let this dry carefully. So as you move this, be careful not to tip it, or your paint is going to run outside your circle. Alrighty.